Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I am Tracey Fink from the Tortoise Institute. I'm in the USA, in Boston, Massachusetts. I connected with Irina through Northeastern University, the Women's Entrepreneurial Center, and it's been just a lovely connection. I'm actually, if you can see me, I'm wearing this, help me say it, Vishiranka, this beautiful top that Irina had sent me when I hosted her daughter, and it makes me feel connected and close to you all. So thank you for that. And it's also like inspiring me to hold this precious space for you as we navigate this very uncertain time in this world. But I'm here to help however I can. So what I'm going to be talking about today is how to build a network and use its power. So my business, I am an entrepreneur. I was a marketing director for many years for an accounting and consulting firm in the US. And probably about 10 years ago, I had this nagging feeling of dissatisfaction. I didn't know what was wrong, but something wasn't right. And I felt like I was looking for some meaning in my life and my work. And through a series of events, through building my network, through utilizing it, through activating the people who could help me, I changed jobs. I actually created a company where I can help people with their mindset as they're starting a business or as they are navigating their business. So from my elevator pitch, and I know that you all recently learned yours, I say I help women entrepreneurs treat themselves like their best client. So often we are hard on ourselves and we don't even know why. So I work a lot with mindset. So that said, I also know about business, and it is really an honor and a pleasure for me to present this to you today. So I'm going to share my screen to get my presentation up. I always have a little issue with technology. Okay, so what we're going to do today, I hope you're a little bit open to something different. This is not going to be your typical business presentation. So we're just going to be open, a little flexible. We're not trying to be better, we're just trying to be different. So I want to do a practice that helps us with generous listening, because listening is such an important skill when we're networking, when we are in relationship with people, and sometimes we forget. We're going to talk more, and I promise you this listening exercise will be relevant to the networking exercise information. We're going to talk about networking, why it's important, who do you network with, who you don't network with, how to get started. We're going to talk a little bit about mindset. I'm going to share a few stories about how I use the power of my network to get things that I needed and wanted. I want to introduce you to the concept of journaling. So before we get too far into it, I hope that everybody has a piece of paper or something to write with. It's better to do it handwritten than on a computer, but if you don't have, anything is fine. And then we'll do a recap. So let's see. How can I see? Is there anything in the chat? Because I can't see the chat.
I see the chat. No one's here
Okay,
yet.
good. All right. Well, I wanted to put something in the chat, but it's fine. So we're going to do just a really a short exercise to begin to build our attention, because obviously we have so much going on. And when you're in a meeting like this, it's very hard for our minds and our bodies to be at the same place at the same time. So we know what it feels like when we're talking to someone and they're not paying attention to us because they're distracted, they're elsewhere. So I just want to share with you a really quick exercise that helps me. It also helps me when I'm a little nervous, and honestly, doing a presentation like this, so, a little nerve-wracking. So before you make a phone call, if you're going to reach out to a networking contact, or if you're going to send an email, or if somebody wants to have a meeting, it is important to kind of get yourself together. And this is a way that we can do it so that we can calm down and relax. And what we do is we're going to bring some awareness into our feet. Now I'm standing up, and if you can stand up, I would invite you to stand, just because we can easily feel our feet when we're standing up. And oftentimes when we're standing in front of people, we're standing. So we can do this exercise and people don't even need to know that we're doing it. So what we're going to do is just bring your awareness to your left foot and see if you can feel the connection of where the foot meets the ground. This is also something we can do when we are, ruminating or worrying, when we bring our attention and awareness back into our bodies. Help us calm down, feel solid, feel grounded, and we're feeling the solidity, the solidness of the floor under us supporting us. So see if you can feel that sense of the floor and the ground supporting you right now. So bring your attention to your left foot. If you'd like, you could close your eyes or not. Just sometimes it helps to concentrate. I'm going to close my eyes, feeling the toes of your left foot. See how many toes you could feel. Maybe go through each toe. Big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe. Notice the ball of the foot, the heel of the foot, feeling the connection of the foot with the floor. And moving over to right foot, again, noticing the connection of the foot with the ground, foot with the floor. See how many toes you can notice. Notice the ball of your foot, notice the heel. Maybe wiggle your toes. And if you'd like, you could stand on your tippy toes, feeling the stretch. Maybe leaning back on your heels. Maybe offering just a little bit of gratitude and appreciation for our feet, for carrying us and supporting us and holding us and steadying us. And just taking one deep breath in, slow breath out. We're just going to see what it feels like, seeing if we're more aware of our feet. Okay, so I wanted to do this exercise now called generous listening, which kind of feeds on the exercise that we just did. And normally what I do is put people into breakout rooms. And we're going to practice listening. And we call it generous listening because when one person speaks, the other person is giving the gift of their full attention. That's the generosity. So we're going to put you in groups of two, and one person's going to be person A. That means you're just going to start first. You're going to speak. And the other person, person B, is going to listen. Person B, you are not going to speak. You can acknowledge that you're listening without words by nodding, smiling. You are giving the gift of your full attention. If person A stops speaking, just going to hold the space. I'm going to give each, and then you're going to switch roles, and then for 2 minutes, person B is going to speak uninterrupted. And then after 2 minutes, you'll have a free flow conversation like, how was it? How was it to speak being uninterrupted? How was it to listen without thinking about what you're going to say next? And the questions on the side, and I could put these in the chat, is how was that exercise for you, that feeling your feet exercise? How was it for you? And be honest. What makes a successful day for you? Or anything else you want to talk about. But you each have 2 minutes to speak. Okay, so I'll just repeat it. Person A speaks for 2 minutes, person B listens. After 2 minutes, person B speaks, person A listens without speaking. And after 2 minutes, you'll have a free flow conversation just for 1 minute. I have 2 minutes on the slide, but just for 1 minute, how was that? Just kind of write down so you don't forget what the questions are. How was that exercise for you? What makes a successful day, or anything else you want to talk about. It's not so much about what you're saying, it's how you are practicing speaking. So would anybody like to share about that experience? What did it feel like to speak interrupted, or what did it feel like to listen without speaking? It's hard. I know for many people it's hard. And I'm sorry if it was awkward. I can't tell what it's going to be like. Oh, we wanted to talk more. Oh, that's so good. So some people feel really uncomfortable to speak without being interrupted. It's awkward. They're not comfortable with the attention. They're waiting to be interrupted. So for many people, it's a very new feeling. And for other people, what I've heard people say is that if they don't say, oh yeah, me too, or ask questions, they think that the people who they're talking to might not think that they are interested or that they care. See, what happens is when we speak in conversation, so often we're thinking about what our response is going to be, that we're not really paying attention to what the other person is saying. And when we are building a network, when we are asking people for help or for favors, it's very critically important to listen to what they're saying so that we can give them the gift of our full attention and follow up where necessary and ask thoughtful questions and make them feel that we're paying attention. So I remember when I first started practicing this, because this is a practice, we have to practice listening. I started at home, and I remember I was very used to my husband being on the phone while I was speaking. And when I was practicing this, I remember I walked in and he said, how was your day? Like looking down at his phone, how was your day? And I remember thinking, I want to be different. I want to practice this. I want his full attention. So I said to him, it looks like you're busy. I will wait. And it wasn't snotty or, it wasn't sarcastic or angry. He looked at me, he said, no, I'm listening. And I said, no, it's fine. It looks like you're busy. So he's like, okay, give me 1 minute. And he finished sending his email. And then he looked up and gave me his full attention. And I spoke and he listened. And then I said to him, how was your day? And I listened without, going to start to make dinner or to, change my clothes or, I realized how often as he was speaking, I was walking away. So once we start building awareness, we realize how much attention we can pay to people and how it feels good to be on that receiving end. That's why this is called generous listening. Let's moving on to networking, the meat of this topic today. So what I like to say, network, just like you had a conversation with somebody, that's what networking is. It's building connections with other professionals. I like to think of it as a pleasant conversation or a friendly email. I don't like to think of it going into like, I need this, I want this, or you're gonna, setting up somebody to maybe not deliver something that we need. It's a back and forth. And that's why networking should always be beneficial to both parties. And we'll get more into that, but it's a give and take. Maybe it's not at the same moment you're both getting something, but the idea with networking is that we don't know when we're going to be able to give to somebody who's given to us, and yet we keep that in the back of our minds. There's also this concept called net weaving, which I didn't mention, but it's doing something for somebody with no benefit to yourself in a work situation. So, for example, I remember much of my career was built on creating a network. Because I was in marketing, my job was to generate new business for this accounting firm that I worked for. And when I was first hired, I did not know a lot of people in this space who were potential clients. So I had this idea, and this was in 2004, that I was going to build a women's network. Now, I know it sounds very commonplace now, but back then, there were not a lot of women's business networks where women came together and talked about work and also shared other challenges that they were having, because we bring our whole selves to work. And so we created this safe, trusting space where women could do business with each other, where women were positioned as thought leaders in that they had industry knowledge, and they were also potential clients. So our group came together and we helped each other in very different ways. Now, some of the ways that we helped each other was not about work. What I would do at our networking meetings, and we called it the Executive Women's Forum, when we got there, we would go around the table and everybody would say what they did, the work, and then I would ask them to share something personal about themselves. Obviously not too personal, so it's uncomfortable, but just enough so that we could connect as human beings. And women like to do business with people they trust. And oftentimes the first way that we build trust is by being vulnerable. And one of the ways that we are vulnerable is when we share something personal about ourselves. So I remember that a woman had shared that she was caregiving for her elderly father who had Alzheimer's disease. So his memory and his capacity for living on his own was diminished. And so many people went up to her after the formal part of the network to share with her some of their experiences caring for a parent or a loved one with Alzheimer's. They had resources, they had contacts, they had networking groups for her, support groups. So we never know what we're going to be able to get when we share our story. And so there's no benefit, obviously, to somebody's business per se, other than building the trust. So I think as women, it's very important to share something personal about ourselves or connect on, like my beautiful sweater. If I wear this out and somebody says to me, oh, I like your sweater, I am for sure going to say, oh, it was given to me. I would explain the history behind it or the story behind it and who it was given to and how I felt when I wore it. And then we start to build the story and create the story. So that's how we start to utilize the power of our network. And it's also about starting with our own vulnerability, how we share. Makes sense? Not always easy. And we'll talk a lot about discomfort. Why is it important? Well, it's important because it helps us feel connected to a community. So many of us are feeling isolated. So if we could connect to a women's business group or to an industry group, it sort of gets us out of what's happening in our world, in our home, and brings us to a place that we can feel heard, listened to, supported. Networking also helps us find our dream jobs by sharing with people what we're looking for when we talk to them. We can use our networking opportunity, back and forth conversations, to grow our personal brand. I don't know if you spoke about, I know you spoke about elevator pitches before, but your personal brand is what you want to be known for. What do you stand for? What your values are? And I know for me, my personal brand is about emotional intelligence. I talk about it a lot. That's the work that I do. I teach emotional intelligence in the workplace. I don't know if I mentioned that's what the Tortoise Institute does. And what emotional intelligence is it's the capacity for being aware of and controlling and managing and expressing your own emotions in a way to build relationship. So it's very, very important in the workplace, although some people think of it as a soft skill. I want to just put to a question to you. If you think about a manager or a leader or a teacher or somebody whose work you admired, somebody whose style you want to be like, tell me what are some of the traits that they had that you admired. You can put it in the chat. So someone, a leader or a teacher whose work you admire, what was it about them that you admired? Some people say, they're a good communicator. Their confidence. Some people say their ability to build good teams. Some people say their ability to make people feel cared for. Well organized, able to delegate. If you're able to delegate, it means you're able to let go of control, style. So all of these so far fall in the realm of emotional intelligence. Now, I'm not saying that technical skills are not important. Technical skills help you get the position that you have or that you want. But what keeps you there as an inspired leader are these other skills that people are talking about, that people admire, that people want to follow, that people are inspired by. And those are all in the realm of emotional intelligence. So this is an important piece of work, even though some people might say, well, not important, but it is, because we are human beings at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. We're human beings doing work with other human beings. So getting back to why networking is important. So building your personal brand, letting people know those qualities about you that might not be your technical capabilities. Your technical capabilities are wonderful, and that's on your resume or CV, but what's your essence? What do you stand for? What's your values? What makes you unique? What's your, what makes you special? Why would I want to hire you? Also, we network to learn about our industry. It's very important to keep up with what's happening. That is true. We network to make new friends, and we make new friends by building trust, and we make new friends by sharing some personal things, especially women. We connect on things like style. We connect on things like, confidence. Building confidence, which is the next thing. That's how we start to build confidence, by being in relationship with people. And these networking opportunities, whether it be like this on Zoom or in person, we start to practice our elevator pitch. I think Ashley shared with, you worked on a few sessions ago in one of the other sessions. We start to practice getting more comfortable with our own values. We start to practice getting more comfortable with what we stand for. And that builds confidence. networking is also really important for getting a different perspective. So we might go into a meeting or an event or Zoom thinking we know everything based on our past experience. However, things change and situations change and industry changes, and we might meet somebody who's doing something a little bit different. So it's so important to have a wide perspective, not a narrow agenda. And that's what networking does. When we're open, when we're having a generous listening conversation with someone, when we're talking to someone without that need to respond, we start to learn things. We start to hear things that we might have missed because we were thinking about what our reply was going to be. So that different perspective is everything. So we start to grow and learn. And networking is also important for getting career advice and support, because we see people who maybe inspire us, who maybe we admire, who may have a job that we want. So we connect with them through networking. Okay, so who do you network with? We could pretty much network with most people in our sphere of influence. But I just want to this might help trigger you and maybe give you some ideas. Obviously, we want to network with current and former colleagues. If we're looking for a job, we don't have to tell people at work that we're looking for a new job if that's not cool. Yet we can start to build relationship with people at work. We could start to let them get to know us a little bit better, maybe know our values, maybe know our stand for, maybe what we stand for, maybe know our personal brand. Or if they do know something about us, maybe we can clarify or we can deepen their knowledge of us. Former colleagues are great because they've also worked with us and they know what our strengths are and what our skill sets are. Vendors, suppliers, they too also know how we work, how we deal with deadlines, how we deal with communication. So they're a wonderful source of information regarding networking, advice about positions, advice about new roles, things like that. Clients, get to know your clients if you are in that position. Let them get to know you, and it doesn't have to be all about business. Now, there is a fine line between what we share and what we don't. So I talk about networking as professional sharing. So I'm not going to give you the deep, dark details, of my sex life at work. But I might tell you that I am, caring for an elderly parent, or that I went, I'm practicing yoga, or I like to cook international, cuisines. So we get the distinction of what's appropriate and what's not. And there is such a thing as too much sharing. So start to notice body language of when you're talking about something and people either pull back or, maybe your friends might have said to you, that's too much information. So get comfortable with your story and what's appropriate for sharing. But that's why I call it professional sharing. But getting back to who we network with, classmates, professors, teachers, again, they know you, they remember what makes you unique, what your proposition of your what is it called? Your unique selling proposition. They know you, so you don't have to start from scratch with these kinds of people. Family and friends are also great to network with if they're supportive. And we'll get into that too. Not everybody's a fan, just going to tell you that. And not everybody will help you. And that's okay, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But other people to network with, members of industry associations, sporting teams, if you play a sport, if you have a social or interest-based group or a religious community, you can start to deepen relationships with people in these areas so that they can get to know you. And then you can begin to talk about careers and job search as after you develop that trust and after you start building a friendly conversation. So we can network with people from digital professional networks like LinkedIn. We can reach out to them. We can connect with them, not in a creepy, stalky way, but in a way that we're professionals here. I admire the work that you're doing. I'd like to add you to my network. I'd like to share with you what I'm doing. Recruiters are also a very big part of who you network with because they can help you get a job. And that's what their job is. They want to do that. So don't underestimate the power of recruiters. And also don't underestimate service providers in your life. So doctors, your accountant, your hairdresser, other people in your life who know you. Once you start deepening those relationships, building trust, they could say, oh, my sister is in that field. Let me talk to her. I'll never forget, my husband came home one day and he said to me, would you talk to this young woman about a career? I said, who is it? And he said, it's the woman in Starbucks. But he had been going to Starbucks for a year. And every day they chit-chatted it up, you know, talked about the weather and work and got to know each other to the point where he felt comfortable asking me to help her. It wasn't, he knew that what she stood for was in alignment with what I could help her with. So be open to where your network could come from. Okay, so on the same respect, who don't you network with? So I'm American. Americans want, I can only speak for myself, but want everyone to like us. And what I've learned in my job search is that not everybody's going to like you. It's okay. Not everybody's going to want to help you. It's okay. It took me a while to understand that, and how I looked at it is I was spending so much time trying to convert the people who didn't like me that I was ignoring this group of people who did like me or who, you know, was attracted to what I was offering. And so once I started to turn my attention to those people, everything really opened up. So don't spend a whole lot of time with people who you don't like and respect. It's not only about what they think. If there are people who you're not comfortable with the way that they do business or the way that they make you feel about yourself or the way that they talk to you or the way that they look at you, don't do business with them. It's not going to, there are going to be other people who are going to make you feel more comfortable. You might have to look a little harder, but they're there. And don't do people who don't want to network with you. If somebody doesn't call you back, if somebody doesn't follow up, okay, you try, we say 2 emails on a phone call. After that, that's it, done. It's okay, get the message. It's not personal, maybe it is, but it's not gonna stop us from continuing our search just because we're not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody's energy meshes, and that's how I look at it. That's how I look at it. It's not that they don't like me. I like to say our energies don't really align. It's fine. It's okay. We know plenty of people like that. And there are also plenty of people whose energy we do align with. So be honest with yourself. And it's okay. It's okay. When you're feeling down and blue, oh, this person didn't call me or this person, spend a moment with somebody who is going to build you up. And you know those people who they are, whether they be in your family network or your business network. Spend a few minutes with some people who build you up. Okay, so some common networking mistakes. I hate to call them mistakes. I like to call them things that we learn from after we do this, but I don't know a word for that. So here are some, and they're common. So if you do this or have done this, you are not the only one who's done this. So it's okay. We're just going to try to learn from this. And you know, I think that failures or setbacks are our greatest teachers. So see if it's possible at some point, maybe after some time has gone by, that you can look back and see what you've learned from a failure. It's very hard to look in the moment. In the moment, it's too emotional, it's too heated, we're too busy beating ourselves up. But after some time has gone by and there's been some distance, see if you could find a gift or opportunity from something that you messed up from, or something that did not go your way. Maybe you didn't mess up, but it didn't go your way. And I think even now looking back, I'm wondering if you can see something that happened that you didn't want it to happen that way, and yet it provided the greatest gift or opportunity for you. So for me, I mean, it was, I lost my job. So when I was, as a marketing director, I was moving more towards my own interests of workshops around emotional intelligence, learning more about emotional intelligence. I kind of lost my interest in marketing, but because I had access to the people at the firm that I was working for, I was like interjecting little things that I was learning through a course that I was taking. And I told my boss, I said, hey, I'm learning some things that could be helpful at work. Would it be okay if I did some workshops or some trainings or some coaching? And she said to me, you don't need permission to help people. I was like, wow. I mean, that was just so generous, but I put it out there. I wasn't afraid. I was afraid, but I was also, you can be brave and scared at the same time. So I took my fear and I kind of put it under our feet. And I said to my boss, I want to do more workshops. And she said, sure, fine. But what ended up happening is because I was spending so much time with the workshops that I was kind of neglecting my marketing work. And the company was experiencing a downturn. And so I was let go. And at the time, I didn't have the language to explain why this work was beneficial for the company, that it would really help with retention, retaining our good talent and our employees. It would help with attracting people to the firm, attracting good talent. It helps people with mindset and focused attention and innovation and creativity. But at the time, I didn't have that language. So I was let go and I was devastated, honestly. But looking back now, it was the best gift that they gave me. And it provided this opportunity to step into my own power and create a company. And I was able to create the company because I had such a big network, because my network at work were now my prospective clients. So that's the power of that network. But some common mistakes that we make is that we feel too awkward, or we're fearful to reach out to people or to ask for what we need. We don't tell people what we're thinking about or what's important to us, our future plans. Maybe it's our dreams. Maybe it's our vision of how we see ourselves. We stay quiet and we stay small. And then people can't read our minds. They can't know that we're actually even looking for a job, or this is the field that I'm looking in, or I'm looking to pivot. They might only have known me as a marketing director. They didn't know me as maybe an educational consultant, or someone who teaches emotional intelligence, or someone who's looking to be different. So if you don't tell people what you're looking for, because it might be different than what you've done, it's not going to help you in your journey to get what you want. And if you're not sure, you just kind of start saying things out loud. Well, I'm thinking about, and this is what I did. I said, I'm thinking about doing more one-on-one work with people. I'm thinking about sharing some of the things that I've learned in this course that I took. So that's how it starts. We're not going to get it perfect, but we have to start somewhere. Some of the mistakes that we make is wasting time with unhelpful information. It's not helpful, but yet, I should follow up with that. but we know, or it's wasting time with people who are not going to try to help us. It's wasting time on people who are not fans. And I think you've heard in some of the other sessions that some of the mistakes we made are actually asking for a job. I think, was it Ashley who said, when you ask for advice, you get a job. When you ask for a job, you get advice. And I thought that was so profound. It actually stayed with me. I listened to that. And, so don't ask for a job. Ask for advice. Share your vision. Share your story. Another big mistake I see is failing to follow up. I said, I'll call you at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock, I don't call you. What does that say about my integrity? What does that say about me? So if you say you're going to do something, do it, whatever it is. And if you know you're not going to do it, don't say it. Don't say it. And if you do say it and you know you're not going to do it, take it back. Say, you know what? Let me rephrase that, because it's better to embrace the awkward moments than really ruin your reputation. And also failing to keep good meeting records is a mistake that can really harm you. What I used to do, I don't know if this is still appropriate, because I don't know if people have business cards anymore. We do everything online, but we could put notes in our phones after meeting somebody, something that we want to remember. And it's really good to do it right after the interaction, so we don't forget, because it's not a good look when you can't remember anything about the conversation, or, we talked about something and now I have to do something and I don't remember. And I'll share with you, this happened to me not that long ago. So I'm involved with Northeastern University, and I know I think Betsy Ludwig came and spoke to you. Well, I'm actually speaking in a business class tomorrow. It's mindfulness in business. Mindfulness is getting big in the US because of mindset. And so I was on the phone with the professor who invited me to speak, and I was in my car sharing this with you, so don't tell her, but I'm going to wing it. So I did not take good notes while I was talking to her, because I was driving, but because of timing, that was the only time we could talk. So it's tomorrow, and I'm going back and looking at my records. I'm like, what am I talking about? What does she need from me? So now I have to pivot and, backpedal. So just sharing, it happens to everybody. It's not uncommon. I'm not going to beat myself up. I actually reached out to her today and said, hey, can we meet, 15 minutes beforehand just to go over? And that's what we do. There's no, I'm not that proud that I'm not going to admit my mistake, because you know what? Thank you all and we had some good questions. Elena had asked me, she wanted to follow up on this asking for a job. And I just want to bring this up because this is a really good point. She said sometimes a mistake is asking for a job, and it can be, or it might not be. And, you have to read the situation. So I was saying to her that if a former colleague of yours comes up to you and says, oh, I have so many open positions that I need to fill, then perfectly fine. Oh, I'm looking for a job. I'm looking for this. And they know you, and they know your skill set, and they know what you're about. That's an easy one. Yes, ask for the job for sure. And you know them and that whole thing. But if you don't know somebody very well, and this is a networking opportunity, and you're sharing your story and they're sharing their story, and you're finding out about people and you're finding out about things, I think it's difficult to ask for a job, because not everybody can deliver. Not everybody's in the right position to give you a job. And if they have to, lobby on your behalf, they might not feel comfortable because they might not know you well enough. So the more conversation that you have around a new position, talking about what your ideal position would be, or in a perfect world, or what I dream about, that's fine to share that. But to ask for a job, it can get tricky. So, but thank you so much for bringing up that question. And, everything I'm telling you is not black and white. It's been my experience and some of the research that I found. You might find something else. Culturally, things are different. Things might work different where you are, differently where you are, and especially with how things are, we need to get things done right away. So, read the room, follow your intuition. We all have so much wisdom. So if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. And if something does feel right, it might be. So learn to start to trust your own intuition. But thank you for the question. Well, I know that you spent a lot of time practicing your elevator pitch. That's a really important thing. But I take it one step further. So it's not only practicing it, it's embodying it. It's living your story. It's showing up as that person who you are every day. So for me, I told you my elevator pitch is I help women entrepreneurs treat themselves as their best client. And I really work hard that in my interactions, I'm going to work with you, whether you like, I'm not going to overstep, but I will interject little pieces of things so that I can show you what treating yourself like your best client looks like and feels like. And that's what embodying is. You want to start to really believe it. You want to start to live it. You want to start to, so that it doesn't feel like an elevator pitch. It just feels like telling people almost like your name, like who you are, like where you went to school or what you do. It's that. So I think it's really important to get really comfortable with your story, your pitch, and getting to know your current colleagues on a different level. I mean, this is kind of what we talked about earlier. Who do you network with? It's finding companies that you want to work with on LinkedIn. You might see or hear of a company that's doing some amazing work in human rights, and you want to get involved in that company. So the idea is to see if there's any connections, or maybe reaching out to some peer along the same lines, and messaging them in a way that's really authentic and open. Like, I love the work that you're doing at this company. Is there is there somebody I can talk to learn more? Things like that. I'm not asking you for a job, but I want to learn more. I want to see I want to just deepen my knowledge base, and that's fine. That's how we get started. So, paying attention to some companies that are doing great things, or that have a social action piece of it, if that's important to you, or how they treat their employees, or how they work with international people. Like, that's companies spark our curiosity by some of the good work that they're doing. So find out, deepen your knowledge and interest about some companies. Industries and industry associations and clubs are a great way to get started. We're just going to deepen our knowledge. Networking events, career fairs, conferences. I think conferences are really good. And I think some things are back in person, but if you can get someone to sponsor you, to pay for you, or if you can join. One good thing about conferences being remote is that the costs are much lower. So set aside, if this is possible for you, set aside a budget of what you're going to spend on networking. And if when you have a fixed budget, then you're not just going to do everything, but you are going to make some small investments in yourself and in your career. So that's what I've done. Because I have my own company, and one of my things is good accounting records, keeping good accounting records. That's not something that I'm very good at, but I'm getting better. But what I started to do is a budget of what, so for me, it's not networking, it's courses and workshops that I want to take. So it's $2,000 for the year. Not a lot, but I could do some pretty interesting things. So I've become much more selective, and I've been doing smaller things so I could do more things. I'm not traveling to go to a conference, because if that were the case, I don't know if 2,000 talks, excuse me, would even work. So, thinking about that. Again, reaching out to relevant professionals, meeting with recruiters, keeping in touch. I think another really great way to get started building a network is volunteering around something that you feel passionate about or that you're curious about. So I caution using the word passion just because passion is fleeting. I like to say curiosity. So something that you feel very curious about. So for me, back when I was, one of my last volunteer positions, I always liked the library. I love the library. I grew up with a library. My mother was not we did not buy books, we borrowed. And so I was always interested in the library. And I remember when we moved to a new town, I went to the library, got my library card, started to see what was going on, what events they were holding. And I started attending some events at the library. I started meeting people just through chit chat, friendly conversation. Hi, where are you from? What brings you to the library? Things like that. And then I met the executive director of the library. She was standing next to me in the bathroom at the sink. And she said to me, what brings you to the library? And I said, I had just moved here, and I told her what I did. And she said, we're putting together a foundation board, and I think that you would be great. And, would you be interested in filling out an application? And I mean, it wasn't just like 5 minutes, but yeah, I mean, through a series of meetings and sharing her vision and my time commitment, I ended up being president of the Library Foundation Board, which opened up a whole world of connections for me. That's where it happened. So anyway, a lot goes on in the women's bathroom too, especially for women networking. Okay, another thing that you really want to think about is making a list of everyone you know to network with. Going through your LinkedIn, going through your phone book, going through, your wedding list, going through any list that you have of potential people who could help you, who you like and respect, who are in a position to maybe make some introductions to you. And think big. You compile this list maybe on an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document so that you can keep those good meeting records or records about the person. Maybe the person died, or maybe they're retired, or who knows, but you want to keep your records updated and you want to start your outreach. I say, have a big list, but pick your top 10 people who know you best, who are in the area that you want to be, who might be able to make some good introductions, who inspire you, who are going to take the time to talk to you. You can who genuinely like to hear from you when you call them. That's what I'm thinking about. So top 10. And then you work your way slowly down the list. And your list might change because when you start with your top 10, they're going to introduce you to people. So then you're going to add them top of mind. They become part of your next 10. Okay, so let's say you get a meeting, right? And somebody wants to talk to you, and it could be a phone call, it could be a prospective client, it could be a prospective employer. Some of the things that I have just, compiled, get clear of what you need and what you want and how you want to present yourself. Okay, have some clarity, and you might need to write this down. You might need to spend a little time, going inside. What do I want? What do I need? Need and want kind of go hand in hand. So, but the idea is having clarity as to what you're going into the meeting looking for. And think of the people who can help you the most. Those are the people you're going to set the meetings up with. You're going to connect with them on LinkedIn before a meeting because you want to see what they do, who they know, where they went to school, who they've worked with. So that's also been what they look like, because if you're going to be meeting somebody, I know now if I meet someone in person, I look at them on LinkedIn, see what they look like. So I'm not like, walking around. Consider what they might need. And you can get a lot from somebody's LinkedIn profile, or you can get a lot by knowing them, because obviously the people who you're going to start doing this, consider what they might need, because remember what I said, there has to be something in it for everybody. Not even what they might need is for you to generously listen to their story. That could be something. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something tangible like a job or an introduction for them, although you never know. So I reach out primarily by email. If you don't have an email, you can message them through a social platform like LinkedIn, but be very specific. If you're going to message someone who you don't know, if you have a name of somebody, a mutual friend, use the name, or be very clear what your action, what you want from them, and be very time bound. Can I have a half an hour of your time? 15 minutes of your time, because people are busy and they want to know that you are mindful of their time. So very important. Or I also think what's very important is you're asking for help. We talked a little bit about being vulnerable. I need your help. Hey, can you help me? Because when you hear somebody say to you, hey, can you help me? Of course I can. Of course I'm going to help you. We help each other. That's what we do as human beings. So how can I help? That's what the next phase is. So if you clearly ask for help, I need some help trying to build my network. I'm trying to get an introduction. I'm trying to think about my next step. Can you help me? That's what we're talking about, help here. Again, time is very important. Make sure we're going to set up a time to talk. Not that I just messaged you on LinkedIn and I'm going to go into this whole thing. Hey, can we set up a time to talk so that I have your full attention, so that I can generously listen to you and you can generously listen to me? I use calendar invites, and I always confirm the day before. Always. That's a mistake that I've made. That it's good for me too, because we also are, are busy and have distractions. So put it on your calendar to confirm. Super important. And when you, the actual day of your meeting or arriving at the meeting, arrive on time. Don't be late. Don't be late. And if you are, apologize, acknowledge, tell why you're, don't blow it off. Don't, time is a very important currency. So have the respect for it. You want to start maybe by asking about them. Maybe you might want to start by saying, hey, thank you so much for meeting me. I'm actually thinking about, I'm really very interested in your company. I'm wondering if you could tell me your story, how you got involved with them. People like to tell their story. People love to tell their story, and they like to be listened to. So if I'm going to ask you to tell me your story, I'm going to listen without interrupting, giving my full attention, just like you did in that exercise. And then I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to say, let me share with you my story. Always being mindful of the time. If I said a half an hour. If they go to 25 minutes in their story, then you could say, hey, I would love to share. Can we set up another meeting? Okay. See if there's anyone in their network. After you trusting your intuition, your wisdom. Hey, is there anybody, now that you've gotten to know me a little bit, or now that you know a little bit of what I'm looking for, is there anybody that you might be able to introduce me to, or that I should talk to? What can I do for you? How can I help? Is there something that I might be able to do for you? I don't know if you've looked at my LinkedIn profile. is there any contacts on my profile that you might want an introduction to? It's fine. If they say no, but you asked. So there's a thoughtfulness there. And thank them. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And then what do you do afterwards? And it's not always possible, but sometimes it is. Sometimes I send, actually, another thing that I do that's just been really great. If a book that I've read sparks some interest, comes up in the conversation, sometimes I send somebody a book and they're like, wow. I mean, it depends on obviously what I want and what my intentions are. But if it's somebody who is in a real position to offer me something great and big and timely and useful, I'll go the extra mile and I'll send a book, or I'll send a note if you don't want to send a book, or, a handwritten note, or definitely an email thank you, even if you've said thank you, and then maybe reiterate some of the points and highlights of the meeting and what you're going to do, because, oh yeah, I'll follow up in 3 weeks. I will follow up in 3 weeks. I'm looking forward to and putting it on their calendar and really following up. And again, thanking them for their time. But this is a really important part. So not only are you going to keep yourself on track with your good meeting notes, you're also, setting the stage for another connection. So following up after a meeting is equally, if not more important than the actual meeting, because what's next steps? It doesn't die it doesn't end there. Okay, so I know I talk a lot about mindset. I think mindset is really important. It's not only, okay, I'm going to check the box, I'm going to make the call, but while you're doing all of this, we have these voices in our heads, I do, that say, why would he call you back? You're not worthy, or, he doesn't know you, or, you can't handle this, or this, whatever the voice is. Choose your own. I don't have to tell you what your voice says, but we all have them. And so I just want to get you familiar and comfortable with that voice and allowing it in. So many times we push it down. We don't want to hear what that voice says about us, but when we bring it in, kind of befriend it, it loses some of the power and the hold that it has on us. So I think for mindset, what's really important is set an intention. What do I want for this? So even before I got on this call today, my intention was to somehow be of service. How can I help? And that was really, whatever it is, if it's through networking, if it's through mindset, if it's through a connection down the road, whatever it is, it's just set a connection. And I actually put my hands on my heart just to connect human to human. That's how we connect. I also think it's really important to get comfortable with discomfort. We don't like to be uncomfortable. We don't like to ask for help. We don't like to, I'm speaking for myself, because I don't want to make assumptions, but I don't like to ask for help. I don't like to appear weak. I don't like people to think that I don't know things. I don't like to think that I don't want people to think I'm not smart or I'm not reliable. And yet that's the voice that keeps coming up in my head. So remembering that asking for help is actually a superpower, because when we ask for help, we get things done. We accomplish a lot. And it also reminds us that as much as we like helping people and we feel good and useful and of service, we also are letting people help us. We're allowing them to feel that way as well. We're giving them the gift of being able to help. We're not denying that. It's not only, that's where, remember we said relationships are a two-way street. Helping somebody makes other people feel good. So the person I'm networking, maybe they're going to give me a job, or maybe they're going to give me a connection, but I'm also giving them the opportunity to help. And it feels good. And people like to be called on to ask for that. remembering that people are human beings regardless of their title. That's a really important mindset. Not saying that we don't give people the respect that they deserve. We would give that to them as humans, but everybody struggles. Everybody wants to be happy. Everybody has had pain in their lives. Everybody brings something to the table that we don't know about until we get comfortable and we ask or we share first. That was what Elena and I were talking about earlier, that when we share first our vulnerability, it creates the safe environment for other people to share as well. Befriend that negative internal voice, that judge, that harsh person, being that speaks harshly to us, kind of befriend her. I also think it's really important to celebrate small victories. So somebody responds to you on your email, yay! Somebody calls you back. Celebrate the small victories. It's not like, oh, I have this whole other thing to do. Yeah, you do, but we also need to celebrate small victories. And I also think that I really am a firm believer in self-compassion, and it became apparent to me through scientific studies that were done around self-compassion. This isn't just like, I'm going to be kind to myself, so I'm going to, watch TV all day and eat, whatever I want. And no, the self-compassion that I'm talking about, where the studies were done, that when we experience a failure or a setback or saying something stupid or, not getting it right, the voice that we want to bring in is this voice that says, okay, it happened. We're not denying, we're bringing it in. Yes, I screwed up, it happened. Although I'm not the only one this has happened to. So there's a sense of common humanity. And that's why I really want to emphasize a lot of the things that you're going through in this job search and this networking. You're not the only one that's going through this. You're not the only one who's having difficulty with this. You're not the only one who, is experiencing this. So when we say, I'm not the only one, there's more room for forgiveness, for resilience. Okay, I'm not the only one. And then the next step is, how can I treat myself like a best friend? How can I talk to myself? That negative self-talk, how can I flip it so that I can keep going? Because I got to keep going. I can't stop. I got to keep going. Although, when we have a screw up or a mistake, we want to, retreat and hide, but we can't. We can't. So what would your best friend say to you? Your best friend wouldn't say, you are such a loser. I can't believe you did that. Everything is ruined. It's never going to be right. No, your best friend would say, all right, not the end of the world. How can I help you? What do you need to keep going? And you can offer that same kindness to yourself. And because you probably already do it to a friend that you know how to do it, so the mindset, the invitation is to turn that on to yourself. Simple, but not easy, and it's a practice. But I have found, and I've seen it, we think that when we're harsh, that's going to drive us to keep going. You idiot, you better keep going. Yes, it might in the short run, but it's not sustainable. And what happens is when we are harsh to ourselves and talk cruelly or unkindly, we get afraid of taking risks because we don't want to make any mistakes, because we're not, we're going to be mean to ourselves. So we stop taking risks. We stop putting ourselves out there. If we know we're going to forgive ourselves for whatever mistake we're going to make, we start to take more risks. That's how I started my company. I learned this self-compassion practice at the same time, thank God, that I was starting my business, because I made a ton of mistakes, a ton. However, this way that I was able to build resilience to keep going was to treat myself like a best friend, acknowledging what happened. Okay, here's what I need to learn. I'm not the only one this has happened to. I'm not the only one who started a business. This is what I need to do going forward. And I would say things to myself. I know this sounds crazy, but I would say things to myself like, it's okay, sweetheart. You're human. It's okay. And after a while, you start to believe it. So I think that anytime you do any kind of work, you have to pay attention to the mindset. Although in the US, it's coming more into the forefront, people's, emotional intelligence and how they're showing up as human beings. But it's not always talked about. And yet, when we have a difficult employee or a difficult challenge, it's often about our, what's happening in our lives, what's happening as ourselves as a person, not so much about the job. Oh, I love this little illustration. So we stay in our comfort zone because it's comfortable by definition, but it's small. And it's when we step out of that comfort zone, when we start asking for help, when we start thinking of what's possible, when we forgive ourselves for not getting it right, when we ask for help, that's where the magic happens. That's when things start to happen for us that are real and huge. And it's happened for me and it's happened for others. It's not that I'm special. It's just that I am trying to be different. And this is how I'm doing it, by stepping out of my comfort zone. And we know when we're getting ready to step out of our comfort zone because things start feeling not good. That we get a nagging sensation, we get messages that we need to start doing something different. And so listen to the wisdom that your body is telling you. I just take a look at the chat for a minute. Yeah, Oksana, I practiced the phrase about being busy with my husband. Wait till he gives me his. So practicing with your spouse or partner is really helpful because, yeah, you have to tame your sarcasm. You have to tamp down all of those things that and you have to treat them like a client. It's a great place to practice, but it's hard. But yeah, and I'll tell you, I talk a lot about my relationship with my husband just because he's taught me a lot. I was sarcastic, very much so, and especially with him. We're that way with people that we're close to. So he gets it now. But and also too, that expression, we show people how we want to be treated. That's very true. And I learned it really closely with that exercise when I said to him, I will wait till you can give me your undivided attention, which is me saying, I deserve your full attention. I'm showing him how I want to be treated. So pay attention to how you show people how you want to be treated. Yeah, the risks. Yeah, I mean, taking risks are so important and so difficult. And yet we can build up these tools to be more resilient. And it's not resilience in the typical way that we're used to thinking about it. That's why this has resonated with me. It's not weak. I'm not kind to myself from a place of weakness. I'm kind to myself from a place of strength. And there's a big difference between self-compassion and self-indulgence. So when you practice something that's self-compassionate, in the end, it's good for you. When you're self-indulgent, it's not good for you. You overeat, overdrink, overspend, not good for you. So you can ask yourself, if you're debated, is this good for me? Will this help me or harm me? So let me give you some real life examples of how I used my network. So when I lost my job, they didn't just say, okay, they knew I was providing a real service and benefit to the company, because people started to come and talk to me at work about some challenges that they were having at work. One woman failed the CPA exam, which is a accreditation exam for CPA. I think some of you probably have one or know that. She couldn't pass the last part. So she came and talked to me, and we talked about mindset, and we talked about things that might have been standing in the way. So the company recognized that I had some value. So they didn't just throw me out. They gave me a month to, set meetings up and make some calls. And one of the people I called was this woman who was president of a pretty large bank where I lived in my business community. Now, she was someone I always viewed as up here. Like, why would she ever want to talk to me? And yet we had been introduced several times, so it wasn't just like a cold call. I admired her work ethic. I admired her style. I admired the way that she was often the only woman in the room and owned it in such a great way. There was just, and I said, I was going to take the risk, and my risk was, her name is Linda. I'm going to call Linda. I'm going to just email her. I sent an email and I said to her, I just want to tell you, I've always admired you. I think my position may be changing. I'm wondering if I could take you to lunch and just get to know you better. So she wrote back to me and said yes, because she is also a human being. And if somebody wrote me a note and said, I admire you, I'd like to get to know you better, I am taking that call. I am going on that lunch. Yeah, you admire me, we're human. We want, what is it you admire? What, people make us feel good. So that was what happened. So anyway, I took her to lunch. She told me her story. Did not ask for a job, didn't ask for anything except to help me maybe put together some thoughts around how I was going to call other people in her position. And I asked her, I said, was it okay that I reached out to you? Was it okay that, so we had an honest conversation, and she made some nice introductions for me, people who I didn't know, but she felt comfortable referring, and that's how I was able to use the power of my network to help. Actually, one of the people that she introduced me to had started her own business. I didn't really know many entrepreneurs in that time, because many people I knew worked for companies, because I worked for a company. And so it was Linda who started introducing me to people. One of the women she introduced me to was a woman who started this very large professional networking group. It was called Leading Women Entrepreneurs. And through that woman, Linda, another Linda, it's funny, that's how I met Betsy Ludwig at Northeastern. So I was moving to Boston, and Linda too said to me, oh, would you be an ambassador for Leading Women Entrepreneurs and meet this woman, Betsy Ludwig, who runs this entrepreneurial group. I really want, Linda too wanted to get in to Northeastern's network. And so, but she only knew to call on me because she knew I was moving to Boston, and she knew that I was thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. I had to share that stuff with her. I had to share some personal things about her. So I got to know Betsy Ludwig through work. And yet when I moved to Boston, it was the beginning of the pandemic. And honestly, Betsy Ludwig was one of my only, she was one of my only friends, and we weren't even friends. It was just someone I knew here. And we started taking walks together, because Betsy had also moved from London not that long before I met her. So she didn't have a lot of friends or contacts in this area. And that's how we started to deepen our relationship as friends first. And then Betsy got to know me, and she asked me if I would be an advisor for the Women's Entrepreneurial Center. And that's how that whole came to be. Like looking back, it's like she touched this and that. It's not a straight line. It's such an interesting path of how things happen. The other thing that I did, some real life examples, is I really stepped out of my comfort zone and I started posting videos on LinkedIn of some of the things I was learning about mindset in the workplace. Now, I mean, not everybody wants to hear it. Not everybody believes in it. Not everybody can hear it. And yet I was coming from a place, I had a professional background, so I knew about the corporate world. I also knew the science now around mindset, around self-compassion, around, meditation, about doing some inner work, about paying attention. There's science around it because there's technologies that show how the brain changes. So I started posting these videos and things really started to happen for me. And it wasn't like from a place of, look how great I am. It was from a place of, I learned something that helped me and it does me no good to keep it. So I'm going to pass it on. And if this is not for you, because not everybody likes what I do and not everybody believes in me and not everybody cares or supports me or likes me, then swipe on. But if this is something that resonates with you, here's how you can learn more. And that's how my business really started to grow during the pandemic. It was crazy. It was crazy. But I want to tell you, if you're going to do videos, and I encourage you to put yourself out there, but your information has to be valuable. Content has to be concise. I started 7 minutes. I thought I had so much to say, and then I got feedback. Just shorten it. And we know people have very short attention spans. And authenticity matters. So what authenticity means is that you're true to your personal brand, to your own personality, to your values, to your spirit, regardless of the pressure for you to act otherwise. So for me, I came from this corporate buttoned up environment where people didn't talk about feelings and people didn't want to know why people were upset. Just get your work done. It wasn't for me, because I also know people needed to talk about feelings and their mindset. So my authenticity came through in that. Language is really important. And I know, there might be some cultural differences here, and some of the things that I say might not be relevant or land in the same way that I mean it. And that's also something that I need to learn, but it all matters. So if you're going to do videos, or if you're going to put yourself out there as a subject matter expert, not from a place of being of service, of helping people, I would, just be mindful of that. Okay, I think, do you want to do this exercise, this journaling exercise? I'm just gonna put it out there, and it's 3 minutes, but there has been a lot of research around journaling in helping people process difficult emotions. So there was a study done, I have the source, I just didn't add it. Laid off professionals, or people who lost their jobs, journaled about their feelings for 5 days for 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day for 5 days. They found new jobs at a higher rate as compared to a group that did not journal. 68% versus 27% over 6 months, I should say that, in a 6-month period, but they just journaled for 5 days. And another study that was done, 49 college students journaled for 2 minutes a day on 2 consecutive days. And they scored higher in tests that demonstrated their mood and well-being. So I just wanted to show you a little bit about what journaling is, and how you can use it for processing some difficult emotions. We kind of like let it out so we don't have to fester and, you know, being honest with ourselves. So I'm gonna just put it out there unless somebody says otherwise. We're gonna do a 3-minute journaling exercise, okay? So I'm just gonna invite you to get a piece of paper and a pen. It's better if we do it handwritten, but if that's not possible, then on your computer is fine. And you are writing to yourself, for yourself. Nobody's going to see this. I'm not going to ask you to share this. This is just for you. So you could be as honest and as icky and as sarcastic, whatever, you know, it's just for you. So just be true. And what we're going to do is we're going to set a timer for 3 minutes, and you're going to just keep writing pen to paper. I'm going to give you some prompts. And if you have nothing to write, just keep pen to paper. I have nothing to write. I have nothing to write. And you see what comes up. So the prompts that we're going to use are any one of these things. Things that annoy me are, and I'll leave it up. My challenges are, it should be what brings me alive. When do I feel the most alive? And I am at my best when. You could pick one of these. So the question is, why is it better in handwriting? Studies have shown, I don't know the exact methodology, but there's something about the pen to paper that allows you to process emotions more productively. I don't know. But that's not to say keeping a journal. I kept a journal on my phone for years. I think it's optimal, but it's not the only way to do it. So, okay, I'm going to set the timer for 3 minutes. Pick one, or anything else you want to write about. I mean, this is just for you. So anything that you want to get a little closer to. That's how I like to say it. Anything you want to maybe just explore a little bit. Okay, I'm setting the timer for 3 minutes. Off you go.
Tracey, the challenge is that this stuff differs so much under current circumstances.
I know.
It's so distorted right now. I'm now currently testing some assessment tools for our future cohorts of leaders. And while I'm testing myself, the results are so that it's not like about me, you know. They're absolutely different from reality, from pre-war normality. So we actually don't know how to respond. I'm my best when there is no war.
Yeah, and I apologize. Well, it's actually, so this is 3 minutes, so you could stop writing, but thank you, Irina. I mean, I didn't even know how to do this presentation today with this backdrop of war. And when I said, you know, right before I signed on, I saw that there was an explosion in Kyiv, and you said, you know, no, keep going. We need to think about it. So, thank you. I mean, the idea is having this time to write whatever. I'm scared. I'm whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't realize that this is such a useful tool.
Yeah,
because
I shared with the girls that my psychologist told me that once you put it on paper, it deprives you from 50% of your stress. So right.
So yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say. I'm so glad that you brought that up, just because I'm struggling with it here from my safe home here. So I wanted you to just to show what it's like to be able to write down some things. And so what I ask people to do now is trying to, you know, go back and see what you wrote and maybe underline or highlight, or, you know, see what might have come up for you, and then throw it away, burn it, you know, do whatever you need to do to process it. But thank you, Irina. I mean, this is so hard. I mean, I have so much respect.
It's like a parallel universe, you know. We're like living in somewhere parallel world right now.
Yes. Yes, I mean, and thank you for choosing to spend your time with me, all of you people who were on, because I'm sure there are other things that you could be doing.
No,
So,
these meetings
you know,
for us is like a kind of stability, you know, element of stability. Every Tuesday we meet, no matter what. So it makes us keep going as well. And participants find so much inspiration and insights to reinforce themselves and to regain this energy. So for us, we never, there was not a single time when we canceled the meeting.
I mean, what a community you've built. And that's the other thing too. We need each other. We need each other. We cannot do this, any of this alone. Anyway, we're going to stop here anyway. So this is the end. But just some recaps, you know, we're in conversation with human beings, and mindset matters. And I think you are all so resilient to, you know, life goes on, and you are living your life with the backdrop of war. So, you know, I say celebrate small victories. This is not a small victory. This is a big daily victory, and until you know, the real victory, that the big victory, which is coming. I pray for you every single day. All right, I'm going to end here.
And once again, encourage all of them to join you, to connect to you on LinkedIn, because sometimes girls are modest and prefer not to be like disturbing, but tell them that it's okay, it's normal, and you're looking forward to all of those invitations to connect.
Exactly right. I couldn't have said it better myself. I will answer all of your requests. If you have a specific question or want to talk more about something that I touched on, please, let's continue the conversation. If you want me to come back and talk to you, if you're continuing to do this on a Tuesday, I would be happy to talk more about things that, you know, you want to talk about, that you know that I can talk about it, mindset, self-compassion, and even just we could do a journaling, a forum, anything. I'm honored to sit with you during this time. So I would be happy to talk about anything that you like. And, you know, my unsolicited advice to you is, you know, I say small moments many times. So small moments of victory, small moments of gratitude, small moments of listening, and small moments of heart-centered love. And just, you know, yeah, thank you. Thank you all. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. And if there's anything else that I can do, anything, please ask for help. Don't deny the pleasure I would have of helping you. So don't be afraid to ask. Think of it as giving me the opportunity to help. Praying for your safety, for a quick end to this, and sending lots of love from the US.